Some people don't have the skills they need to stay alive in the remote mountain areas of the United States. Lucky for us, some people can do that. MountainMen, a show about a group of men who spend most of their lives learning how to feed themselves and stay alive in difficult weather, is the best example of this. Rich Lewis became well known as a mountain lion shooter because of a reality TV show. Fans of the show loved him because he was good at tracking and really cared about his dogs. But when Rich stopped being on the show, a lot of people became interested. The video for today will answer all of your worries. Let's get started. After 5 years on MountainMen, Rich Lewis became one of the most liked and respected characters on the show. His fans loved how brave he was and how he protected his town from wild animals. You could respect him for a lot of things, like his tough way of life or his strong sense of duty. It wasn't a surprise that many fans were worried when Rich left the show. Some people even thought he was fired because he didn't agree with the director. What's the real story, though? Rich has never liked talking to the press, that's the truth. He's very private, so it's not likely that you'll be able to get a full talk from him about his leaving. One thing is still clear. Rich picked to leave the show by himself. Reports say that neither the directors nor anyone else made the decision for him. He just decided it was time to leave. We have a better idea of why Rich Lewis left MountainMen now that he hasn't been seen since the season 6 end. In that show, Rich told the truth. He felt too old to keep up with his tough hunting routines. He also talked about how his way of life was making him feel worse. He was ready for a change when he looked back, almost certainly quit the show to live a quieter life. It's pretty clear why he quit reality TV, now that he talks about getting older, physical demands, and a desire for peace. Fans still don't know what happened to him. He used to live in Ruby Valley, a small town in northeastern Montana. Does he still live there, or has he moved on? It's too bad that not much is known about Rich Lewis's life now. There are no social media accounts that I can see for him. In the past few years, his family hasn't said anything new about him. The man who was once known as the Montana Lion Hunter has disappeared, and no one knows where he is right now. Also, it's too bad that Rich Lewis hasn't been seen on MountainMen since he left the show, because not even the History Channel has talked about his life since then. Rich has been open about a lot of his life on the show, so it makes sense that he would want to keep it private. Fans would love to know what he's up to now. Rich, like many television stars, only showed what he wanted to show. He never seemed interested in fame or notice from people outside of the show. These days, it's tough to keep your private life secret, especially after being on TV. We usually know a lot about our favorite stars, even things that they probably shouldn't have told us. MountainMen's men are not like that, though. They don't want to be in the center, maybe because of the way they live or their personal beliefs. They don't talk about their personal lives, and Rich Lewis has always been one of those people. It's worth noting that finding detailed information about Rich Lewis's life outside of acting is especially hard, even compared to his former MountainMen co-stars. We don't know much about his childhood, schooling, or family. Rich comes from Idaho, that much we know. He had been living in Ruby Valley, Montana for more than 20 years before he got his start on TV. Fans may recognize his wife Diane because she was on the show with Rich from the 2nd to the 5th season. Still, a lot about their private life is still unknown. It is not clear if the pair ever had kids. Like Rich, Diane doesn't like to be seen and isn't on any social media sites. That means fans can't really find out anything else about the couple besides what they saw on TV. Even more interesting is how Rich was found in the first place. It is not often that a big network like History makes a hit show about people who live in the woods. Mountain ranges really do look simple and peaceful at first glance. It's even stranger how the show's makers found someone like Rich, whose private life was so closed off. Thinking about it, it's not likely that you'll meet someone who lives such a rough and rural life and be able to get them to go on national TV. MountainMen's producers probably came up with clever ways to find the right people for the show. In the case of Rich Lewis, he probably wasn't that hard to find. In his heart, the media had been interested in him for years before the show ran. The Missoulian, a Montana newspaper, wrote an article about Rich in June 2007 after he killed a mountain cat that was causing trouble in Ruby Valley. Rich tracked down and killed the lion, which had already been marked as dangerous by local officials. He did this with full permission from the Department of Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Living so close to the forest, it had killed a number of foxes, dogs, and pets in the area. There are times when wild animals get lost in town, but this mountain cat had gone too far. Rich Aquer stepped in to keep everyone safe, and people did notice what he did. That's why he was admired and well known in Ruby Valley before the MountainMen came along. He became a local legend for being able to track down people quickly and bravely while saving others. So, when history looked for real-life survivalists to join the second season of the show, was a given. Rich was good at what he did, but he also had the right look for TV. With his long, scruffy beard, serious face, and amulet-covered hunting gear, he looked like he came straight out of a book about tough mountain hunters. Not only could he live in the wild, but he also looked like he could. And that's one of the things that made him so memorable on the show. Fans of the MountainMen were really into Rich Lewis, which is a bit strange since he wasn't exactly known for having a happy personality. Still, you knew something exciting was about to happen every time you saw him load his dogs into his old truck and drive up the rough mountain paths. Rich wasn't a loner. Even though he was a good hunter who paid attention, he would often show the screen to his wife Diane, a neighbor, or a friend and teach them how to track and hunt wild animals. Fans saw not only how to stay alive, but also how a close-knit community is formed through confidence, toughness, and experience. One thing is for sure, Rich's time as a TV star may have seemed too short to his fans. He lived up to his name, the Lion Hunter. During that time, he also gained the love, respect, and admiration of viewers. TV stars. It's hard to reveal how much Rich makes from the show. Companies that make TV shows and networks usually don't talk about those numbers, and MountainMen is no different. Fans and websites haven't stopped guessing, though. Time on Mountain by Rich Lewis. Menrich's brave act was more than just a neighborhood success story. A lot of people in the area heard about it right away, and people were happy to tell visitors their favorite story. People who do study for the History Channel also heard about the story. At the time, they were looking for new people to join the group of MountainMen for its second season. They didn't think twice about getting in touch with Rich after hearing about his skills and name. Rich decided to be on the show so viewers could see for themselves how good he is at survival, tracking, and living a unique life. Men who decided to live in some of North America's most remote and rough areas were shown on the first season of MountainMen, which aired on March 31, 2012. These weren't just some random weekend travelers. They lived in the wild every day, navigating the harsh landscapes of the Appalachian Blue Ridge, the Montana Rockies, and Alaska's huge northern ranges. In the wild, where people are not at the top of the food chain, these men depended on skills that had been passed down from generation to generation. Skills like how to hunt, track, build, and stay alive without the conveniences of today. The risks they were in were real. Isolation, dangerous animals, and the harsh winter weather can all be very hard. There wasn't much space between life and death in that place, especially when the temperature dropped below 60 degrees and the body got cold faster than it could heal. When the show first started, people were drawn in right away by how real the stories were. 3 men, Eustace Conway, Tom Orr, and Marty Maiorato, were shown in the first season. Even though they lived in different mountain areas, they all had to deal with the same problem: how to stay alive in the wild, away from people. MountainMen became a huge hit right away because of how determined, skilled, and connected to nature the actors were. When Rich Lewis joined the group in Season 2, he added to the show's rough charm by playing a mountain lion hunter whose only goal is to not only survive in the wild, but also protect others from it. In Triplet, North Carolina, Eustace Conway lived. His home was in the Cherokee National Forest, close to the border with Tennessee. By the time MountainMen started shooting, he had been living in those woods for 35 years, learning skills like how to hunt, skin, and kill animals. He laughed when people told him that going to the mountains wouldn't help him escape reality. This present-day world seemed fake to him. He said that most Americans today couldn't even get taller or keep their food. Tom Orr, on the other hand, lived in the Northwest, deep in the wilds of Montana's Rocky Mountains. Winter had been coming in faster than usual that year. Even though the land was rough and cruel, Tom wouldn't have changed it for anything. Since he had lived in the same place for more than 30 years, he didn't want to go back to what other people called settlement. He and his wife Nancy loved how quiet it was, even though their kids and grandkids begged them all the time to retire and move somewhere warmer. But living in Montana wasn't easy, especially for people like Tom, who still had pain from old riding injuries. It could be winter for up to 7 months, and getting ready for it wasn't easy. Nancy told them that they would be in a lot of trouble when it snowed if they didn't finish everything in the fall. Tom also said that he and his neighbors had to look for good places to hunt in the winter every year so that they could have enough food to get them through the long, cold months. Marty Maiorato lived on the edge of Alaska, almost 100 miles from the nearest grocery store. There, winter came earlier than in the lower mountain areas, and the weather was some of the worst on the continent. Marty always left his wife and young daughter at home in Two Rivers, which is about 23 miles from Fairbanks, when it got cold. He went to the northern Alaskan Range, which is one of the most remote places on Earth. Getting to Marty's trapline house was hard for many Alaskans because the state is so big and the land is so rough. It was about 200 miles away from where he lived. It was not a normal flight. It took over 3 hours. Alaska is a dangerous place to fly, even when the weather is good, but winter made it even more dangerous. Marty had to winterize his plane, which meant taking off the wheels and putting on skis before every trip. In temperatures below zero, the job was very hard, and even simple things were tiring. He had to deal with winds, whiteouts, and temperatures that could drop below 40 degrees once he was in the air. Rich Lewis joined MountainMen in its second season with a completely different set of survival skills that were just as important. Rich wasn't just a mountain man, he also hunted mountain lions. In 2013, there were about 75,000 cattle in the area, and they were grazing on almost 1 million acres of farms. When mountain lions started to hang out near farms and threaten animals, Rich was the person everyone knew they could trust to take care of the problem. Lewis. These big cats are some of the most dangerous wild animals in North America. They usually eat deer and elk, but they have been known to attack cattle, sometimes even people, if they get too close to places where people live. A lot of these fights started when people built homes and farms in the middle of the lion's natural range. In the past few years, rules that protect the environment have helped mountain lion populations grow again. But this has caused some problems. Lions have attacked and killed horses and pets in the area. People who lived in Ruby Valley knew exactly who to call when mountain lions were a threat to their animals. When he first appeared on TV in MountainMen, people saw why he was so respected in his town. In the first episode, Ruby was hired by a rancher after 2 heads of cattle were killed by a lion. Rich brought his pack of dogs with him, which he had trained for more than 3 years to find mountain cats and catch them without hurting them. He called this very specific method hounding. To start the search, he put his most beloved dog on the hood of his car and tied it down with a rope to make sure nothing would happen. The other dogs rode behind. The dogs sniffed the air for any sign of a close lion as Rich drove slowly through the valley. When they found new tracks in the snow, he let them go into the wild to start the hunt. Rich followed on foot and paid close attention to hear a certain set of barks that meant the dogs had found their target. It's important to note that Rich never meant to kill the cat. It was his goal to drive it away from farms and up into the mountains where it would no longer be a threat. Once the dogs cornered the lion, Rich would scare it away by making noise and moving around. If needed, the chase would go on until dusk. People were really moved by how close Rich was to his dogs. At first, he showed off Capote, Turbo, and Brandy, 3 of his best dogs. He added more over time, but Capote stayed ahead of the rest. Because of his years of experience and feelings, Rich treated his dogs like family. He made it a rule that he would never go home without all of them with him. One memorable part of the show was when only Capote and Brandy came back from a trip. Turbo wasn't there. Rich was afraid of the worst because the area was known for wolves. He wouldn't leave him behind, so he stayed out in the woods all night and slept under a tree until dawn. When it got light again, he started looking again and was very happy to see that Turbo was safe and not hurt. There is no surefire way to get close to mountain lions without getting hurt. There are real risks in every hunt. Rich Lewis had fought many of these dangerous animals and come out unscathed, but not all of his dogs were so lucky. He once went through a very hard time emotionally when one of his beloved dogs was killed by a lion that the locals called three-to-ed. What that animal did to Rich changed him in more ways than one. Following the event, he was determined to track it down once more and settle the score. Rich made it clear, even though he hadn't seen its tracks in a while, he would not get away with it the next time. Not only Rich was heartbroken when he lost his dog, the work also took a big hit because of it. It takes about 3 years to properly train a hunting dog, and even with all of his safety steps, the wild was dangerous. Anything bad could happen at any time. A lot of people loved Rich because he was honest and had a close relationship with his dogs. People saw how much he meant to his fans in the 4th season of MountainMen. The fans went more than 1,700 miles to see Rich in his home in a tiny valley. They brought a gift, one more dog. I could tell Rich was very sad when one of his favorite hounds was killed by a lion while they were shooting. He had loved that dog very much. Because his friends felt sorry for him, they gave him a new pet, either to train as a hunter or just to keep him company at home. Before each season of MountainMen, viewers were warned about material that might be upsetting. Many fans saw that these warnings had nothing to do with Rich's parts, which might have made some people think his hunts were safer or less dangerous, but some say that wasn't the case. At the end of one season, he had tracked down a female mountain lion that had been terrorizing a nearby ranch for 4 days. It was finally found in a cave in the Tobacco Root Mountains, not far from the ranch. A man and his dogs tracked it there. Rich put branches over the cave opening to make sure the lion was still inside. After 12 hours, the signs showed that there was movement, and his dogs picked up the chase again. In the end, they tangled the lion in trees, which let Rich scare it away from the area. That time, no one was hurt, but it was a dangerous and important task. That's why fans were worried when Rich didn't come back for MountainMen's 7th season. A lot of people thought the worst had happened, like something bad had happened on one of his lion hunts. Some fans thought that Rich Lewis was fired from MountainMen because he and the show's directors didn't agree on how to make the show. Some people who didn't like the show say that it lent more towards guided reality and had scenes that were exaggerated or remade instead of moments that were just real. Others think that Rich was fired by the Department of Fish, Wildlife and Parks after killing a mountain lion by accident during a hunt that was meant to scare other hunters away. However, the most likely reason for his leaving was much more useful: age. It was just that Rich was getting older, and the physically hard nature of his job was beginning to show. Even though he finished his last hunt during the 6th season of the show in September 2017, fans noticed that he looked very tired as he climbed the steep terrain. He had always said that he would never get tired of shooting wild animals because he loved it so much. But he knew that getting older was a fact of life. He knew that getting older meant moving more slowly. No one knew he was saying goodbye at the time. His last public appearance finished on a positive note when he said he was glad that no animals had been lost during the season. Fans weren't ready for him to leave, but it was a good way to end his time on the show. These days, Rich Lewis doesn't seem to be in any public events. Rich and his wife Diane are not on any social networks that we know of. It is hard to tell where he is or how he is doing right now. What did Rich Lewis really do to hunt MountainMen? The answer is yes, but keep in mind that every scene is being dramatic by exaggerating in some way. MountainMen is still on the air, even though Rich left the show a few years ago. It began in June 2021 on the History Channel with the 10th season. It had famous naturalists and hunters on it, like Eustace Conway and Tom Orr, who have been on the show since the beginning in 2012, not long after Rich left. Over the years, some new actors have joined the group, like Jake Herrick and Mike Hortzman joined MountainMen during its 7th season. Today, Martha Tansey joined as the second new cast member in the show's 10th season. MountainMen may be back for a 2nd season, but it's not official yet. It seems very possible. People really like the show, and its numbers have been strong through all of its seasons. How much Rich Lewis is worth? Several sources say that Rich Lewis has a net worth of more than $300,000, 0 cents. A lot of that money came from his time on MountainMen. Not much is known about his other wealth or property that is open to the public. Still, it's nice to know that his job on the show made him a good living and that he's probably spending the rest of his days in comfort, the way he always wanted. The rest of the MountainMen group doesn't have their exact salaries made public, but it's safe to say that a lot of them make good money, sometimes even more than Rich Lewis the lion hunter. Marty Morado, for instance, is said to make around $3,000, 0 cents per show, though that number could be a bit high. It is thought that Jason Hawk has an even bigger net worth, about $400,000, 0 cents. This is mostly because of the show. One of the most well-known actors, Tom Orr, is said to have made around $200,000, 0 cents, from MountainMen over the years. That's not as much as some of his fellow stars. At the same time, Eustace Conway probably has the best pay deal of the group. News stories say he's worth about $2 million, 0 cents. In this case, he made around $3,500, 0 cents per show, or $40,000, 0 cents per season. That may sound like a lot, but when you spread it out over many years, it's not that much. Reports say that the folks who work on MountainMen have tough and sometimes dangerous jobs, but their lives aren't as risky. During the show's run, there have been no fatal crashes caught on camera. It's too bad that not all news about MountainMen is good. Preston Roberts, a naturalist and guide to life, died in the middle of 2017. He was 60 years old. His family said he died because of problems caused by a liver tumor. Even though doctors tried, no medicine or surgery could save him, and his health quickly got worse. As soon as Preston Roberts was diagnosed, word spread about how close he was to MountainMen veteran Eustace Conway. From the show's first season until he died, Preston was on it more than once. Both men were very close to Preston, and they also helped to create the Turtle Island Preserve, a camp that honors his life and work. MountainMen gave him a small tribute at the end of the 6th season. Luckily, no one else from the group has died since then, but fans miss Preston a lot. There's no doubt that reality shows can be false or over the top for fun purposes. MountainMen is not a fake, though some scenes aren't exactly how the production team shows them. In 2013, show star Tom Orr said that some things are blown out of proportion to make the show more interesting. This includes scenes that were recreated with wild animals that might not have been as exciting in real life. Still, most people think MountainMen is not a scam. The people on the show are all real hunters, nature lovers, or people who like to survive. Also, the cast can't fake or stage the bad weather and tough situations they have to deal with. Rich's life story. In January 1954, Rich Lewis was born in Idaho. He learned how to stay alive from both his father and grandfather as he grew up on a ranch. How he was raised as a child shaped his life and led him to have a deep relationship with nature. He and his wife, Diane Lewis, finally moved to an 8,000-acre piece of land in the remote Ruby Valley, which is in the southwestern corner of Montana. They did this to get a quieter life. The rough landscape keeps most outsiders away. There are only 3 people living in every square mile, and Rich likes it that way. Rich used to drink, but he hasn't had a drink since 1994. He is direct and very independent, and he says a lot of the time that he's not a people person. He has made it clear that he doesn't want to fit in with society's rules, and he doesn't mind if people think he's crazy. He wants them to do it if it means they'll leave him alone. Rich has always looked out for his neighbors. Even though he likes being alone, He took care of the area and kept mountain lions and other dangerous animals away from people's homes, kind of like a watchdog. Those who lived nearby helped him protect his land in return. Rich was a well-known and respected person in the Ruby Valley area long before he ever showed up on MountainMen. The event in 2007 was the main cause. The mountain cat was impossible to stop, even by following the strict rules set by laws meant to protect wildlife. Rich and his dogs did find the cat after getting permission from the Department of Fish, Wildlife and Parks. He became famous on national TV because of how brave he was and how much he knew about the wild. But his neighbors already saw him as a hero. Rich Lewis. Where is he now? Rich Lewis has always liked living off the grid, and since he doesn't have an online profile, not much is known about where he is right now. There are rumors that Rich left Ruby Valley and moved to the city to live with other people. Some people think he's still in the valley, and that the people in the area are just helping him keep his privacy. Many people think that he and his wife Diane still live in Ruby Valley, Montana, where they have lived for almost 20 years. The way he left MountainMen is said to have been friendly by most accounts. It's thought that Rich and the show's producers broke up amicably, but there's no public proof of this. Fans would love for him to come back, but it doesn't look like he will at this point. Fans hope that Rich is having a great retirement no matter where he is. His neighbors have been safe thanks to years of him teaching his dogs and living his own way. He's earned his peace. How do you feel about Rich Lewis leaving the show? Share your thoughts below. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you liked this movie. It will have more celebrity news. Watch the other videos on your screen before you leave.